or stress. And now let your breathing find its own natural, comfortable rhythm and depth. And focus your attention on the feeling of your breath at the very tip of your nose. So feeling the breath as it moves through the back of the throat, into your lower diaphragm and back out again. And just allow your stomach to rise and fall naturally as you breathe. Allowing your stomach to rise and fall naturally with each breath you take. And again, return your attention to the feeling of the breath at the tip of your nose. So perhaps you might notice that the breath feels cooler as it comes in, and that the breath perhaps feels warmer as it flows out. And just allow your attention to be focused on your breath and away from the noise, the thoughts, any feelings or worries that might usually be filling your mind. And as you gently breathe, become aware of the place in the breath that you can most easily hold a feeling of awareness. So where can you most easily tap into the awareness of the breath? So it might be at the very tip of your nose, it might be at the back of your throat, it might be in your chest, or perhaps it might be with the rise and fall of your stomach. And so wherever that is, just allowing your attention to rest gently at that point and continue to watch your breath. And as you continue, you'll notice that your mind will very likely become caught up with thinking, different thoughts, different feelings or sensations. And it might become attached to noises, or you might find yourself wandering into a memory, something from your past, or maybe going into the future, or maybe imagining something that hasn't happened. And this is really to be expected. So this is the nature of the mind, to get attached to things, to think. And so when you notice this, without any self-judgment, just observe the process of your mind. So observe the busy mind without becoming attached. And then simply allow your attention to settle back onto your breathing. And watching the breath flow in, down into the lungs, and watching the breath flow out. and feeling it move. Feeling the breath move in and feeling the breath move out. And again, as you notice your mind wandering off, no need to criticize. So understanding that this is simply the nature of the mind. It is the nature of our minds to become attached to concerns, to become attached to feelings, fantasies, memories. So just notice that this has happened. Notice the wandering mind, the busy mind, and then let go of the thoughts. Simply watch them as they drift by, like clouds blown by a breeze, and gently return your attention to your breathing. If you're finding it really difficult to not get caught up or carried away with thoughts, then let your mind gently count forwards from 1 to 10 with each breath that you take. And if you're counting, when you feel like the mind is a little bit more still, a bit more quiet, you can again let it rest just on the feeling and the experience of the breath. So no need to push away thoughts or any irritation or to push discomfort away from the mind. See if you can just simply be patient with yourself, be patient with your body, and be patient as you notice the experience of the busy, restless, perhaps agitated mind. The experience of emotional ups and downs, or the experience of boredom. And then let go of whatever tries to capture your attention. And return your attention back to the breath. And just allow your breath to carry you into a place of relaxed awareness and mindfulness. And now gently bring your attention back to just the breath. And taking some deeper breaths. Now bring your attention back to the space of your body, to the space of the room. And when you're ready, you can gently open the eyes and stretch yourself out. So, I thought we'd just do a little bit of feedback on how we're finding our meditation practice so far, and any mindful eating experiences we've had. So just looking at this meditation that we've just done, does anyone have anything they'd like to share, whether that's it could be anything, something they found challenging about it, or something they found surprising about, that they noticed about their mind. So if you've got anything that you want to share, you can just put your hand up and then I can unmute you. Obviously, Chelsea, I can't see you, so and we can't hear Chelsea. So Christine or Lucy, any experience of that? So Christine, I'll unmute you so we can all hear you.
Well, there's two things. One is just getting into the habit of doing it. I love it when I get around to doing it, but I'm doing it too late in the evening because I haven't got myself a time to do it. So I'm maybe going to have to try next week getting up in the mornings and doing it then, because it's just thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't done it yet, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the other bit is, because I used to do transcendental meditation, I actually can't do it without saying the sound because that you get in transcendental meditation, because the problem with doing it with breathing for me is if I go deep, then my breathing actually slows really down and almost stops, and I can't concentrate on the breathing bit because it's sort of weird. So I kind of try and do breathing and the sound, but actually I think I'm just doing transcendental meditation more than the breathing.
Well, they're very similar. Obviously, transcendental meditation, you get given your specific personal sound mantra. But if that helps you to just bring the awareness to the moment.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So,
yes, and I think finding the time, like setting up times that work for you to practice, is a challenge that I think most people experience, that it's not always easy to, the best thing really is to try to get into a habit, so that you can, if possible, carve out the same time every week, a bit like kind of brushing your teeth, because when you do something almost at the same time every day, it becomes a lot more automatic. So that might be that realizing, okay, well, if you leave it till too late in the evening, sometimes we're tired. And I mean, we've all been there, and you think, oh, I'll just put my headphones on in bed, and then you're asleep, which is quite a nice way to fall asleep, but obviously it's not really the purpose of it. And mornings can be really good if you can carve out time in the morning to do it, because sometimes the brain, in a nice way, can be a little bit slower then, and it can be helpful. But yeah, that is a challenge, and that's something that just as you go through, just sort of trying to figure that out. And even if it's very more ad hoc to begin with, that you're not doing it at the same time every day, just trying to do it every day is the win.
Yeah.
And Lucy, have you been able to practice any mindfulness, any listening to any of the audios? Sorry, let me unmute you first. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I do try. I really struggle at times to switch off enough to do it. So I'll start and then I'll find that I can't quiet my mind enough. So I end up thinking, oh, I'll come back to it another time. But I am trying to do it.
Yeah.
But even with the one that was just, my children, unfortunately, are still out of bed. But I just find it hard to switch my brain off. And that's the thing I think I need to work on.
Yeah, and obviously the thing is that's what meditation is. That's what it will help you with. But obviously, when you first sometimes try to do it, I explained this to someone the other day as well, because it's quite an unnatural thing really for our minds to be still. So in terms of like our evolutionary programming, our minds are really designed to respond to stimulation, to noises, to anything that changes in our environment. We're really programmed to be super sensitive to that, and really it goes back to, I guess, when we were cave people and we had to like be on alert. But it's not it's not, in a way, a natural thing of the mind to do. So sometimes you can actually, your mind can kick back. So you might feel like, okay, I feel a bit agitated, but I'm going to try to meditate now anyway. But then you might find that you feel 10 times more agitated or restless than you did before you decided to meditate. And sometimes that's just the mind kind of trying to kick back, because you're in the sense that you're doing something unnatural, and sometimes your brain's a bit like, well, no, I need to really wrap this up now and really feel your mind, all these thoughts. So in the same way that sometimes when you start yoga for the first time, sometimes it is quite stressful, which sounds like an odd thing to say, but because it's just a new thing and it's a new kind of training that you're doing with your mind, sometimes, very often, the first couple of weeks that people try to develop a meditation practice, if they've not done it much before, it can be really difficult. Obviously, practically, it can be difficult finding the time, children, distractions, but also in terms of your inner experience of it, it can be quite difficult. But it's trying to just push through that and know that that's a really natural thing that can happen, and that, you know, the very purpose of doing it is that you will learn to sort of slow that agitated mind and be able to drop into that place a lot more quickly with more practice. Even if you're feeling agitated, you'll sort of develop that ability to sit, and it won't be easy, but it won't feel like it does now. And I think that's just because, you know, it's I'm guessing, I didn't see you last week, but have you had much experience of mindfulness before?
Yeah, it's something I try and use often, but I tend to be more of a practical person when it comes to mindfulness. So as much as I know that meditation, the times that I have done it, do really, really help me, I tend to go things like doodling and colouring, because it's something that you know, can do a bit more sort of in the workplace, that kind of thing. But yeah, I do try and do mindfulness.
So not so much the meditation, but the activities.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so let me just go back here. And have we had any chances this week, anyone, to practice a little bit of mindful eating, even if that was just for a couple of breaths before you had a meal, or any experience of how the raisin exercise perhaps changed some of your experience of eating in the week? Lucy, have you had any experience of that?
Just the raisin exercise made me think about how I just sort of woof down what's in front of me. I don't really sort of appreciate, you know, the smell and how it looks, and the sort of the anticipation of actually eating it. And then I look forward to my dinner, but eating it so quickly, I haven't really had a chance to get excited about it or to smell it properly. So yeah, that kind of made me think about taking it much slower and savouring it a bit more.
Yeah. And did you feel like you could apply that to any other times in the week that you've had a snack or a meal, or was that?
I try to. Yeah, I have tried to. Difficult at some meal times, but I have tried to, and I think I'm hoping it's something that I can build on as we go.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're only week one, so it's just starting small.
Overachiever.
And Christine? Oh, I've unmuted you, but I can't hear you. I'm not sure why that is. One moment. I did unmute you, Christine, but I'm not sure why we can't hear you.
You might hear me now. I've unmuted myself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I have fleeting moments of being more aware and trying not to eat so fast and just be more aware. It's just, yeah, it's good because I'm trying, but I can easily just eat and not be thinking about it. But I have had times when I've been thinking about it, and the odd time when I've thought, or I've done another thing, which was I've gone to the fridge to look for something to eat, but I've become aware I'm not hungry, I'm just bored, or I'm not sure what I want, but I don't want food. So I've done that a couple of times. So
that's brilliant.
That's quite good.
Yeah, great. It's really, obviously it's very early in our mindful eating journey. And at the beginning, it's really just more about having the awareness. You might not actually be able to apply some of the stuff so much in your sort of day-to-day life, other than just remembering the experience and the possibility that you could do that, even if you don't do that. You know, it's sort of having that awareness of, you know, I could slow down now, and I could really be more present with this. But maybe in that moment, you're not actually doing that, but you're bringing your awareness to the possibility of doing that, which is all really positive, and really positive, Christine, that experience you have of going to the fridge, like so many of us do, and actually we're bored or we're tired and we think we want food, and we open the fridge, and, you know, had you not had this experience, you might have just eaten something, you know. So that's a really really positive sort of tuning into your inner wisdom, really, of actually, what do I want, and it's not actually food. So brilliant. What we're going to do now is, do we have our in the email I sent, I asked you to bring your so I sent 2 forms, questionnaires, which was a keep and balance form and a mindfulness questionnaire, and don't worry if you don't have them to hand, but did people, just a show of hands, have you seen those forms, and have you managed to fill them in? Yes, yeah. And Lucy, just a show of hands, do you have your form with you now? No. Okay, that's fine, don't worry. And Christine, have you got yours? Yeah. Okay. So so Lucy, it doesn't matter that you don't have yours with you now. We're just going to talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing in relation to it, but you can very easily do that when you get your form, and I can bring it up and share the screen with you in a moment. So really that form is just about bringing a little bit more awareness to any kind of behaviours and habits that we might have around food, around eating, and sometimes just asking questions that you would never have asked of yourself can really sort of shed a lot of light, and it can help us sort of break our experience and the patterns of eating into lots of different bits. So it can really just shed a lot of light. And what I thought we would do with that is to choose 3 things from that which we want to sort of, that we feel like are challenges that we have that we might want to work on. So Christine, seeing as you've got yours now, you could if they sort of jump out at you, you could feel free to just circle those, but we'll probably give that a little bit more thought when we're not in the live session, especially because Lucy doesn't have her form now. But yeah, just look at three of those that are sort of patterns related to your eating that you might like to be able to change on this course. So hopefully moving that score that you scored into a more positive direction. And just make sure that one of these is quite an easy goal, because some of them might be a bit more difficult to achieve. So 2 of them can be more challenging things, but make sure that one of them you're choosing is a relatively easy goal. And we're going to sort of revisit this form a couple of different times in the course. So the other thing that we looked at, in fact, I'll just get it up now and then I'll probably share my screen with you. Yeah. Right. So here we go. So hopefully you can all see now the mindfulness questionnaire here. And just a show of hands, Lucy and Christine, did you manage to fill this in? Yeah. And you might remember, I mean, was there anything that, and actually going back to the other keep and balance form, both of you did, is there anything that sort of stuck out that sort of surprised you, or something that you answered that you thought, oh, maybe actually I would really like to work on that? So Christine, yeah, always show me your hand first, otherwise I can't unmute you. And then Christine, make sure that you're not muted yourself as well. So Christine, I can't hear you. I think you need to unmute yourself.
Do it?
Yes. Oh, you've muted yourself again.
No. Right, there we are. We're okay.
I'll just let you do it from now, because I think when I do it and then maybe you do it at the same time, it does something funny.
Yeah, it does. I think so. Yeah. I mean, mine is eating with other people, like when my husband's wanting to eat, and then I'm not hungry, but I'll eat with him. That, or I met a friend and then we had tea and she had some biscuits, and I didn't really need the biscuits. It's with other people that because I can't. It's difficult to work out what your own body's doing, but you can't. Even if I know I'm not hungry, I'll do it to be social, if that makes sense. And I don't know how to work that one out, really.
Yes, that's a really, really big one that a lot of people struggle with, is social eating, because also there's the kind of comfort and emotions around sharing food with people, that it's a nice thing to do. And if you meet up with a friend and you're trying not to have so many pastries and they've just bought you a croissant, often we feel a bit rude turning that down. So that is something I think a lot of people could probably relate to. And then again, Christine, anything that came up that you noticed about the filling in the mindfulness questionnaire?
That was the other one. Let's have a look.
So there was 39 statements, and we just had to say how true they were for us.
Yeah, I think I've only got 15, but
oh, well, maybe I gave you the shorter form. Sorry, I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah. I do things automatically without being aware of what I'm doing. And I find myself doing things without paying attention.
Yeah.
Those two things, I put those as the often ones. Because I kind of go through life without being aware, really.
Yes. So the same thing as the keep in balance form. If we, when we finish this session, or just in the week coming, if we could also just highlight perhaps just two, because there's only 15 statements on this one, but just 2 points that you feel like are particular things that you'd maybe like to work on and improve, that this course will hopefully definitely help with. Because it's really nice to just see and to put some particular markers in, because then when we revisit these later on, we can sort of hopefully really see that, I did put a number 5 there, and now if I was to answer that, I would say number 2, and that can be really affirming. So let's come off the share. Right, so we are going to introduce something called a mini meditation. So this is really, like it says on the tin, it's a mini meditation that is no more than really a few breaths, and it's something that we can learn to do, and hopefully that we can get more in touch with doing just before we eat. So often, if we're trying to come to that place of inner wisdom and really tune into the body before we just perhaps eat very mindlessly, which is maybe what most of us would normally do, just taking a few minutes to really be present and breathe and kind of drop down into our kind of bodies, our inner wisdom before we continue eating can be really helpful. And of course, it's not always possible to eat mindfully. So when we do these exercises, like the raisin exercise and the one we'll do in a minute with the cheese and crackers, the intention isn't that you're going to eat every meal like this, because that's just not possible. We don't live in a world where we can just like, you know, breathe really deeply and eat really slowly. Often we have children and busy households, or we're in a rush, you know, and that is just life. But hopefully throughout the week there would be a meal that we feel like we could eat more mindfully. So maybe if you've got the chance to eat by yourself, you might feel, oh, I'm going to sit down and just really turn this into a bit of a mindful experience. So in the same way that maybe Lucy was your doodling and things like that, using the experience of eating in a similar way, but not with the idea that that's what we do every meal, because it's not possible and we're not trying to set us up for that standard. But what is possible is just taking a few breaths, doing like a mini meditation before we eat almost anything, because it takes a few seconds really, and it's something that people can't see you doing. So you could do it even as in a social situation. No one would have to know, you don't have to close your eyes. So I'm just going to lead you through the experience of a mini meditation. So the first one we're just going to sort of go through, and then I'm going to ask you to visualize that you were sitting in front of a meal. And then we can sort of discuss how our experience of this or how we feel like it might help. So, yes, so again, just make sure that you're comfortable. You've got your nice sort of comfortable seat. And we will do this with the eyes closed, but just knowing that you can also do this with the eyes open, but just for the deeper experience of practicing this now, if we could all close the eyes. And then just begin by taking 2 or 3 deeper breaths from your diaphragm. So let the air flow all the way into your stomach without any push or strain. And then allow the air to flow gently back out again. And now that your breathing finds its own natural, comfortable rhythm and depth, and gently focus your attention on the feeling of your breath as it comes in at the tip of the nose, as it moves through the back of your throat into your lower diaphragm and back out again. Let your stomach rise and fall naturally with each breath. You may notice that the breath is cooler coming in, warmer flowing out. Notice any thoughts, emotions, or feelings in your body that arise. But simply notice without judging, and see if you can extend a sense of self-acceptance. Then bring your awareness back to your breath, staying in this center place, keeping your eyes closed, and realizing that you've now done a mini meditation. So we'll keep the eyes closed, and I'm going to lead you through that again, but this time we're going to explore how you could bring this into your experience of eating. So again, taking several deep and relaxing breaths, and letting the air flow all the way into your lower belly and then back out again. Noticing if there's any areas in your body where you're holding tension. And if so, breathe into these areas and breathe out any tension or discomfort. And now visualize or experience yourself preparing to sit down to a meal or a snack by yourself. And now picture the food in front of you. Breathing in and again breathing out. And just notice without judgment any feelings or thoughts that are going through your mind, particularly related to choosing to eat or related to the food that's in front of you. And breathing in again. And out again. And being aware of any tension in your body. And choosing to eat the food in front of you with mindful enjoyment. Now taking one more deep breath. And then opening your eyes when you're ready. If you want, you can have a little stretch out again. So you will be familiar with that really as the beginning of a longer mindful meditation. So it's really just an invitation to become aware of your breath, to just notice before you eat, are you holding tension in your body anywhere? What thoughts are going through your head about the food that you're about to eat? Because that really does influence us a lot. And a lot of those things might be quite unconscious. You might be sitting down to eat a fish and chips that you love and you want to eat, but actually in your head there are thoughts going on about, oh, this is guilty, this food is bad, I shouldn't really be having this. And so just bringing that mindful awareness that is without judging, just being accepting and just noticing these things can be really, really, really freeing and really helpful. So obviously those ones I just led you through were a little bit longer, but you can do this by yourself, even if you're with other people, and it's really just a mindful moment where you're just pausing, maybe even counting from 1 to 5, taking some breaths, being with your breath and just noticing how is the body feeling, where is the tension if there is, and how do I feel about the food I'm about to eat. So given that this is a much easier thing than obviously practicing a full mindful eating meal, see if, and you'll get this in your home practice, but see if you could just engage with these mini meditations a few times in the week. So maybe once a day, and it might just be that you do that before you have a snack. You remember to just drop into your breath, experience your body, where's the tension, any thoughts or feelings. It might be that you do it before you sit down to a meal with your family. And again, you don't have to tell anyone that you're doing it. You might just very easily do it in your head with no one really knowing. So hopefully it's quite clear that how that might be able to sort of help our mindful eating journey, our experience with food. But once we've had a bit more experience with that, we'll talk about that a bit more next week. I don't have a script for that I've recorded because it's such a short thing that it's really just taking a mindful moment and just remembering to do that. But on your little, I can't remember what I've called them, but you've got the kind of tracker, your daily meditation tracker. If you've been managing to fill that in, these mini meditations can be included in that. So it just can be a helpful thing at the end of the day to sort of reflect on what did I actually manage to do today. Okay, maybe I didn't manage to really eat a meal that mindfully, but I did manage to do my mindful check-in just before I ate. So we're going to move on to mindfully eating our cheese and our crackers. Yay. So hopefully, have we all got cheese and crackers to hand? Yeah. So this is a bit more substantial than raisins, obviously. So raisins we do in the first week because, well, they're tiny, they're pretty innocuous. Most people don't have strong feelings either way about raisins. Or maybe you don't like them, the taste of them. But cheese and crackers tends to be a food that many of us, if we were dieting or if we have dieted, that we would restrict because cheese is fattening and cheese and crackers is just a fattening snack and we probably have an apple instead. So we're purposefully choosing a food that is maybe a bit more of a comfort food, perhaps a bit more of a trigger food if anyone does tend to eat emotionally, but a food that most people tend to like. And make sure that you've just, if you've got them on a plate, so if you've got your crackers and your cheese on a plate, and you might want to just have a glass of water ready, which you're welcome to. Just after you've had them, you might want to grab a glass of water, but you don't have to do that now. But if you want to grab a glass of water now, we can just pause for a break. Do you want to grab a glass of water, Christine or Lucy? Yeah, we'll just pause for a minute, that's fine. Yeah, wonderful. So this is similar to the raisin exercise we did, but also different. And obviously it's with a different food, so our experience of it will be quite different as well. So again, making sure that you've got your crackers in front of you, and then just closing your eyes. And just allow your breath to flow naturally. So taking some deep centering breaths. And now just notice if there are any areas in your body where you're holding on to tension. And if so, breathe into those areas and breathe out any sense of that tension or any sense of discomfort that might be there. And notice, without judgment, any other feelings, experiences, or thoughts that are going through your mind. And particularly any related to the food in front of you. And breathing in again. And being aware of any tension in your body. And if you are aware of any tension, again, breathing into that tension and exhaling the tension out. And now open your eyes and take one of the crackers and cheese. So firstly, just look at it carefully. You can bring it up to your nose, you can smell it. And then take a bite of it, closing your eyes now if you wish. And notice how it feels in your mouth. So move it around in your mouth and just notice the sensations, how it feels. Notice how the taste might change as you bite into it. And the taste might change as you continue to chew. And see if you can savor the experience of this small piece of food. And honor the satisfaction that you do experience from it. And if you haven't done so already, choosing to swallow and noticing how your body and mind reacts to the food. So how does your body feel? And do you notice any changes? And noticing now any sensations that might still be in your mouth. And now opening the eyes and then taking another piece or another bite. Closing the eyes again if you wish. And experience the texture and the taste in your mouth. So how is this bite the same as the one you just took? But also, how might it be different? And draw as much satisfaction as possible from this mouthful. And if you haven't already, when you are ready, you can choose to swallow. And then just asking, does your body or your mind want another bite or another cracker? Does your body or your mind want another bite or another cracker? And notice how you know the answer to that. So how is it that you know the answer to that question? And so if you do want another cracker or another mouthful, then take a moment and help yourself to that now. And see if you can eat it mindfully. So noticing the sensations, the texture, the feeling in your mouth. Noticing how this mouthful perhaps feels the same or different to the ones previous to it. And how is your body reacting? So what are your thoughts now as you eat? And as you swallow, appreciate for a moment that you are feeding your body a complex food to provide energy and well-being. And then continue eating mindfully if you wish. Again, if you wish to have another mouthful or another cracker. But before you make that decision, again, just tuning in, asking, does the body or the mind want some more? And just noticing how you know that. And if you are deciding to eat some more, then seeing if you can engage with the practice of eating mindfully, so savouring the food, slowly chewing, feeling it in your mouth, noticing the texture and the taste. And if the eyes are open, then closing the eyes. And just coming back now to an awareness of your breath. Coming back to your body. Coming back to the room. And when you're ready, gently opening the eyes. And obviously helping yourself to some water now if you want some. So what was it like to eat this food this way? If anyone wants to share any feedback, then go ahead and just unmute yourself. If you're not sure how to unmute yourself, then raise your hand and I can do it for you. So what was it like to eat this food in this way? Oh, Lucy, are you talking? Lucy, did you just start to talk?
No, sorry, I was reading what Chelsea had. It's funny, I've got an awareness of how I seem to push food to the back of my mouth as I'm chewing, almost as if to swallow it too quickly.
Mm.
And I'd swallowed a long time before you'd said, oh, and if you're ready now, swallow. And I didn't savour it the first couple of mouthfuls in perhaps the way I should have done. And then the last one I enjoyed a lot more because I actually took the time to and was more mindful about keeping it and chewing it properly in my mouth as opposed to just sort of woofing it down.
Brilliant. And Christine? Well, Christine, I'm not sure if you've actually frozen now. You're back.
Right, sorry about that. I think I pressed something. I loved it. I was hungry, and I noticed. I just loved the contrast between the cracker being crisp and the cheese and the taste of it, and my mouth was watering like anything. And I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed really being aware because I was hungry. Then when I'm hungry, I'll tend to eat too fast. Well, I eat too fast anyway, but actually making myself not eat so fast was lovely. It was really nice because I think being hungry, you get even more. You kind of notice, you notice the food if you're hungry even more, and that was really tasty and it was nice.
Great. And when I asked the question, notice, does your body or your mind want any more, and how do you know the answer to that? Did anyone have any experience of anything they want to share about that?
Yeah, I wanted 3, and after that third one I didn't want any more, 3 mouthfuls, and then I didn't, even though I was hungry. I was surprised because I still have some more on the plate, but I didn't feel that I really needed it after I'd had those 3 mouthfuls, even though I was hungry. So that was good because I expected, normally if I'd just been eating, I'd have ate everything on the plate.
Yes, well, sometimes when you really tune into the satisfaction that you get, because our taste buds do tire, often the first mouthful we have of something, if we're paying attention, is just such an experience. And then, like a muscle, our taste buds tire. So sometimes continuing to eat beyond that point isn't actually very satisfying, because you're not really savouring it or enjoying it so much anymore. Brilliant. Okay. And yes, Chelsea, obviously it's difficult for me to ask you to share things, but you can always just type anything into the chat that you want to share. So I'm mindful. So we did go, we didn't start until sort of 10 minutes past because we were getting people set up. So if it's okay to continue for another 10 minutes, and if anyone needs to leave before that, then obviously this is being recorded, so you can always just kind of catch the end bit. But we're going to just move on. So we've got, I've got a little sort of presentation about looking at outer wisdom. We won't be able to cover all of the slides, but what we don't cover this week, we can hopefully just add on to a little bit of the beginning of next week. So let me just get this up and then I can share my screen with you all. So we're just going to look at, for a few minutes, a mindful approach to our outer wisdom, so eating for our health. So you may remember from the presentation last week that really the mindful eating part is really comprised of 2 things. So the first is that we're cultivating, developing our inner wisdom, and that is this feedback and information from the mind and the body. Yeah, so we're cultivating an awareness of that, which very often we are quite unconscious of. And then the outer wisdom part is really just more about knowledge and kind of education around food. So I've defined it here as wisely discerning and using information or knowledge that we have about nutrition, health, and exercise. And we need both of those, inner wisdom and outer wisdom. Inner wisdom forms most of this course because most people tend to have much less sort of cultivation of their inner wisdom. And sometimes if we had experience of dieting, which I think most women have, or the experience of really trying to be really healthy, we can get overly concerned with outer wisdom, which isn't perhaps so much wisdom, but overly concerned with rules, with knowledge around food, guidelines of what we should or shouldn't be eating, how much fat we should have in a day, how many calories. So most of this course is really largely about our inner wisdom, but we do want to cover some outer wisdom because we want to use that as well in our sort of decisions around food and our health. So that's just a little covering of what the inner wisdom components are, which is quite a lot of things that we experience in the next few weeks. I won't go through all of them now. And the components of our outer wisdom is really food education. So just understanding some basic nutrition principles, the role of exercise, and then being able to adapt this to our personal needs and our preferences. So not just eating something because maybe we have a knowledge of it being healthy or helping with something if we don't actually like that food, because that's not very nourishing to eat food just because it's healthy that's not enjoyable. And a big thing that I wanted to just cover, because very many people get really bogged down with calories. So just a show of hands, who here have you ever counted calories, Lucy or Christine? Yeah, so me too. I think if we had everyone else in the group, they'd probably all raise their hands. And just thinking to yourself for a moment, how did you find this? Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? Does it or did it make you anxious? Does the idea of even counting calories make you anxious? So probably because I doubt many of us are perhaps in that realm of calorie counting now. Very often it's not actually very helpful. It can become a little bit obsessive and restrictive and really can take the enjoyment out of food. And also calories, there's a really big myth around calories. So in this talk, really, it's fat and calories I've covered most because they tend to be the most misunderstood. So a lot of us are counting calories and we don't even know what a calorie is, other than something that we should burn to lose weight. So a calorie is really just a unit of energy. And the calorie that you see on a food package is actually a kilocalorie. So it's actually 1,000 calories, which is another slightly confusing thing. So a calorie is actually 1,000 kilo. It's a kilocalorie, which is 1,000 calories. And the kind of sciencey geeky thing, which again doesn't necessarily really make much sense in terms of understanding why they might be important, is that a calorie is the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius. So it's a unit of energy. So how much energy that you need to raise a kilogram of water by 1 degree. So, who really cares about that? But most diets are absolutely obsessed with calories. Almost every diet, at least maybe nowadays, not so many, but almost every diet that is aimed at losing weight will be very overly preoccupied with counting calories. Because the basic law is that if you want to lose weight, then you must eat less calories than you're burning. Or you must burn more than you're eating. And still, medical profession, government, food industry, they're really still actively promoting the outdated and actually disproven idea that calories are created equal, because they're not. So a calorie is not just a calorie, which is why if you count calories, often it doesn't lead to sustainable, healthy weight loss. So it's actually wrong. So the notion that if you burn more calories than you consume, you'll lose weight isn't actually true, and we'll talk a little bit about why. So the main reason is just that all calories are not actually created equal. So a lot of scientists going back would really have a right half if you said that, because they just think a calorie is a unit of energy. But the same number of calories from different types of food can have really different biological effects. So if you think for a moment about the amount of, so think about 1,000 calories from a soda drink versus the amount, so versus 1,000 calories in a piece of, well, it would be a lot of pieces of broccoli. So we can say, well, it's the same energy, but actually they carry vastly different information. Yeah, so some calories are addictive, others are healing, some are fattening, some are metabolism boosting, and some are inflammatory. So there's a whole host of different things that calories are associated with, which is why a calorie is not just a calorie. And this, I think, is a great way of putting it, which is because food doesn't just contain calories. We're not just eating calories. Food contains information. And there's a lot of science about that. And if you think about nutrition like an onion, the outermost layer, which is the bit that you throw away when you're chopping your onion, the skin, would be the calorie. It's the least important bit in terms of your nutrition. And if you follow a nutrient-dense approach to your diet, and if we learn to fuel our body really with paying attention to the quality of our foods, not the quantity, but what are we eating, what's the quality, then calories actually become really unimportant, really irrelevant, and you don't really pay any attention to them. And if we look at, so we've got our onion, just visualizing that, so the outer layer we've got our calories, the next layer is what we call macronutrients, which are like the fats, the carbohydrates, and the proteins. And these are the fuel that the body uses to carry out all of our activities. So they're things that all the food is comprised of in different proportions. They build muscle, they help the brain function, immune system, etc. And monitoring your intake of these components is more important than monitoring your intake of calories. So it's much more important to think about your food in terms of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And this is a really weight neutral approach, this course. So it's not about losing weight, but of course there may be some people that do want to lose weight. What most people tend to feel good on, and of course this is always adapting it to individual needs and preferences and things, and maybe other health things that we have going on, but most people tend to feel good on a diet that is fairly equal between fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. So say you could say 33% fat, 33% carbohydrate, 33% protein. And it's much more helpful to think of your diet in terms of how much of those things are you eating rather than how many calories you're eating. And then if you come to the very inner layer of your onion, that would be what we call the micronutrients. So we've got calories on the outside, we've got our macronutrients, our fats, our proteins, our carbohydrates. And then the very innermost bit, which is the most juicy, amazing bit, is the micronutrients. And they are, maybe you've heard that term, they are things like the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, and lots of other different compounds that really keep our bodies healthy. And they are really the most important part of our nutrition. So not the calories, but the micronutrients, because they're the part that really carry the most potent information. So when we talk about food as carrying information, and that food isn't just calories, it's information, this is largely what we're really referring to is the micronutrient content. And this is why if you choose food for quality, not quantity, you tend to really be in tune with eating in the most important way for your health, because micronutrients are found in whole foods. So really just thinking, how can you get the most of these? Well, you just eat in a way that's as close to nature as you can. So foods that have been interfered with as little as possible. And just to finish that by saying that it's very easy to get caught up in counting calories. And when we do get caught up in that, or caught up in the kind of the calorie content or the energy content of what we're eating, it can really stop us from being able to choose food in a more wise, discerning way, because we're just focusing on the outside things that are really quite irrelevant, and we can get really, really caught up in that we don't tune into how can we choose food for its nourishing ability or its micronutrient content. And the main thing I've said here is, I want you to take away from this, is that it's not about how many calories you consume, it's what makes up those calories that's critically important. So, you know, no part in this course are we going to be counting calories or anything like that. What can be helpful, I mean, many women especially have a very negative and quite strained relationship with even the idea of counting calories. There is a place for it if you haven't had that bad experience and it's not a triggering thing. It can be useful to learn how many calories certain foods have in them, not as a way of like tracking every single thing you eat, but also sometimes as a way of making sure that you're eating enough, because very often actually many times we're not actually eating enough, and that can really sort of slow our metabolism. And so sometimes weight gain isn't always because we're eating too much, which is a slightly side note. But counting calories, or being aware, not counting them, but being aware of the calorie content of certain different foods that you like to eat can be an interesting exercise, but often it's really triggering, and it's one that I don't necessarily recommend. And then we have got a few more slides, but I'm going to leave those till next week. So the next slide just really covers some myths about fat. So I really wanted to cover calories and fat because when I speak to a lot of women, that's the main things that they're sort of concerned about. And obviously sugar now has been really vilified. Even sort of like 12-year-old girls are, no, I mustn't eat any sugar. So I mean, I didn't put that in this talk because I feel like that's something that there is more awareness about sugar. And yeah, we all know it's not great to eat too much sugar. But the rest of this talk, we just look at some myths around fat and fat intake. And then we look at some of the benefits of exercise and how we might be able to sort of get more of that in our daily life, and some reasons why we would do that. Yes. So does anyone have any questions or any sort of thing they found interesting, or something that they didn't know about calories? Oops, I think I've just stopped the share. Yeah, hopefully you found that quite interesting. I mean, was there anything there that you particularly stood out as something that was an important piece of information? Feel free, if you want to share anything, to just switch your microphone off rather than me trying to do it myself. Or Chelsea.
I've not thought of, or I didn't know that about calories. It's quite interesting to think of them in that different way. It's kind of flipped it on its head a little bit. It's given me quite a lot of food for thought.
Oh, good. Yeah, brilliant. Literally food for thought. So yeah, that's why I really wanted to include that, because really emphasizing that calories are the least important part of food that you should be worrying about, really. Unfortunately, that's the part that we seem to have been brainwashed to really be the most concerned with. But again, just always come back to that onion, that thinking about the onion. If you get yourself caught up in thinking about how much energy does this have, and am I going to be able to burn it off, if you're someone that tends to think in that way, try to just flip that on its head and just ask the question of, how am I nourishing my body with this food? So go to the inside of the onion and look at that part instead of the outside, because that bit we just throw away. So brilliant. What I thought we'd do just to close is we'll just do another sort of mini meditation just to bring ourselves a little bit more centered before we close. So again, just make sure your feet are flat on the floor. and that you're sitting nice and comfortably. And then you can close the eyes and then just relax your shoulders. You could just gently lift the chest and then soften the jaw. And just feel that you're sitting with a nice tall spine, but a relaxed posture. And just coming back to the simple fact of your breath. So not trying to breathe in any particular way, not trying to control your breath, not trying to control your thoughts, not trying to not think, but just watch your breath. So like dust settles, settling the mind onto the simple fact of the body breathing. So staying with the breath as you inhale. Breath moves in through the nostrils, down the back of the throat, into the lower diaphragm. And stay with the breath as it journeys up and out. And just feel that each breath you take, you're moving closer and closer to your center. So moving away from the chattering, busy mind, even if that's just for a glimpse. Watching the breath flow in and watching the breath flow out. In and out. And then just start to take 2 or 3 deeper, really nourishing breaths now. And you can exhale through your mouth and just allow the exhalation to take with it any sense of tension or stress. And again, breathing in, deep breath in through the nose. Exhale through the mouth, just releasing any tension or stress. And then take 1 more breath like that. Blowing the breath out through the mouth. And then bringing your awareness back to the body sitting on a chair, the space of the room that you're in, sounds around you. And then gently open the eyes. And then you could just take a little stretch. You could take your arms up over your head. Take a bigger breath. And see if it's possible to hold on to some of that extra centeredness as you continue your evening, whatever it is in store for you. And I will see you, well, I'll be sending out an email tomorrow, so it will have this recording, which probably won't want to watch if you've been here, but you might want to refer back to something, and it will have the home practices. And so just see if you've been struggling to do the mindfulness meditation, see if you can just try to fit that in and just commit to doing that, 6 times in the week. So obviously today you've done it because we've done it now, but see if you can do it every day just for 10 minutes of your time before we meet next week. And even if you sit down and you're not feeling it, can you just stay with it for the 10 minutes regardless of whether the mind feels really agitated and busy. And then our mindful check-ins as well, the mini meditations, but all of that will be on our weekly home practice sheet. And in the meantime, if you've got any questions or anything you want to email me, you're always free to do that. And then we have a Q&A session on Friday. So when I send the email out, if anyone's planning to come to that, just let me know. It's really just for your benefit. So if you feel like it would be a helpful thing, then let me know and I'll see you there. Otherwise, I'll see you all next Wednesday. Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.